why don't you start by telling us your name and what you're known for?
My name is Jim Starlin, and I'm chiefly known for Thanos. I'm his daddy.
So were these characters you had kind of created when you were young that you thought would be fun, or were they just kind of fly the pants, we need a villain? Or
No, after I got out of service and before I came to New York to get work at Marvel and DC, I had taken a few courses at a community college in Detroit, cashing in on the VA benefits, and one of them was a psychology class, and the lecturer came in one day to speak of the Freudian concepts of Eros and Thanos. I, of course, latched onto the darker side of it. I had my dues I had to pay beforehand. My first book up at my first story up at Marvel was like a 5-page love story with Tom the truck driver, Dick the dude, and Wendy the waitress. Started off with alliteration. And we went from there to a horror story, some covers, a couple of Beast covers, and then George Tuska, who was the regular penciler on Iron Man at that time, had to go into the hospital for an operation. And Roy Thomas, the editor, asked me to come in and fill in a couple issues. The first one I did with Mike Friedrichs, and Mike pretty well let me plot it out, so I threw Thanos in and Drax. And after that, the next issue I did with Steve Gerber. It was a funny Iron Man issue, and Stan Lee hated it, and he fired both Steve Gerber and I. Fortunately, Roy had other work that had to be done, and he offered me this book that he wasn't sure was going to stick around or not, but it did last, and that was called Captain Marvel. They just revamped it, and they had 2 issues, and the initial sales were terrible. It was kind of hard. They put an artist named Wayne Goring on it, who used to do Superman comic back in the 50s. And Wayne was really kind of burned out by this time, and it wasn't the best looking stuff. And so the book didn't sell, and Roy said, we have the printing schedule, we got to get it in there. This may be canceled before you even finish your first book, but give it a shot. And it worked out. The sales went up, and I stayed with it for about 8 issues, and then went over to DC for a while, and then came back and did Warlock.
Did you feel you had finished the story with Captain Marvel, and then you came up with new ideas?
No, it was my first blowout with Marvel. The first of many we were going to have. If you look at those early Captain Marvel issues, every issue has a different inker, because they were just sticking whoever was there. And finally, sat down and we got Klaus Janson. He was going to be the permanent inker on the book, which I was very pleased with. He lasted 1 issue, and they pulled him off to work on something else and put Jack Abel on the book, who was a very fine inker, but they broke the deal. And, they said, well, that's too bad. That's the way we do things here. And so I said, well, I'm not going to work here anymore, and I left. Went over to DC for a while and came back and settled that whole inking thing by inking my own books.